It's time for us to turn to football. Mark Lawrenson is with us. Mark, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, thanks. Got back about midnight last night, so all good.
Very good. So you were in Wembley for the cup final?
Yeah. I tell you what, it was a much better game than I expected. I thought it would be far more tighter, and in all honesty, either team could have won it.
Either team could definitely win it. When the two keepers are left taking penalties, is there anything that we can read into the fact that Kelleher manages to bury his and Kepa, who hasn't had the best career at Chelsea, blast his over?
I just think the irony of obviously Kepa being brought in just before the end of the game to save any penalties, and well, basically probably neither of them were anywhere near saving them. But you know what's really interesting, I think, is that I think goalkeepers should always take penalties, because if you really analyse it, they kick more dead balls than anybody, and there's a little bit, but they're taking them. I don't think they've got anything to lose. I mean, the quality of the penalties was outstanding, and we kind of sat there thinking, crikey, is anybody ever even going to miss? I mean, they were nearly all in the side netting, as in, the right side of the side netting. Almost, I think maybe only two might have been able to be saved. But yeah, I mean, Kelleher's done fabulous, and his penalty just showed, well, he's got massive cojones. So, and generally, if you look at the competition and the games that Liverpool played in the competition, he's been one, if not the outstanding player of all the games.
It's really interesting that Klopp decides to stick with him and play. It's obviously an agreement he had, but we know so many managers break those agreements and go, I'm sorry, I need to win the trophy. And Klopp does need to win trophies as well. Like his record in cup finals is not amazing.
No.
And so it would have been easy for him to, look, Queeveen, I'm really sorry. If we win, we'll give you the win bonus. You'll get the performance bonus. Don't worry about it. I've got your back. But actually, to go and follow through, it just speaks to somebody who's actually a good person as well as a good manager.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. I mean, he told him at least a month ago, if not longer, that he was going to play in the final. So, and if you think about it, I mean, he doesn't. When you talk about Manchester United and they said rumours coming out from the dressing room and all that kind of thing, which you always get at all clubs, you don't get any of that at Liverpool. And I think it's because when he leaves players out, he pulls them in and says, right, you're not playing tomorrow, but in 2 games when we got Brighton away, you are definitely going to play. So he's always given the disappointed players something to look forward to. I think Fergie did it at Manchester United coming towards the end of his career, and he'd do exactly the same thing. So he's just an outstanding manager. Obviously, I'm biased, but he's an outstanding manager, and he's also an outstanding bloke as well. You just that comes through, and when you meet him, it's not, it's just evident. He's like that with everybody in the football club. The manager, the cleaning staff, everybody, and the car park guy. It's just the way he is.
How much does winning a trophy buy you a bit of credit with players like Queeveen Kelleher, who maybe without that would be thinking to himself, do I need to play more football? Does, I guess, winning that trophy yesterday make him think, listen, I'm here next season for sure?
Well, of course he wants to play more football, but then, so say if he went into Klopp and said, can you loan me out? And, arguably he'd possibly go to another Premier League side, if not maybe go to the Championship. But if you really, really think about it, in the small-sided games that they play in training and everything, so he's up against Salah and Mane and, all these players, and surely you must learn nearly every single day from them, and they are world-class talent, and he's not going to go somewhere where he's going to be playing with world-class players if he gets loaned out. So he's still young, obviously, everybody likes him. He knows everybody likes him. He must absolutely love it at the football club as well. But I get the fact that, maybe go in the Championship and get battered with all the crosses and the corners coming in and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't see the manager, unless he got another outstanding number 2, I don't think he'd ever load him out. Why would you? I mean, Adrian, no. So that's where you've got to keep him, I think. Go on, keep him with the first team.
Absolutely. Well, it 100% makes sense from Liverpool's perspective. Like, I guess my question is he playing enough football to keep him satisfied? And I mean in competitive matches.
We'd have to ask him. I don't. I mean, listen, I would suggest that probably yes, because the evidence is there that when he comes into the team, especially in the Carabao Cup competition, he's been outstanding in every game. And, he saved penalties all the way through. He's been the hero on a few occasions as well. And it's all part of the learning process, isn't it? And the thing is, the manager will manage this situation with him. And I really don't think it's an issue. I don't think we'll hear in another 2 or 3 weeks, well, I played in all those games in the Carabao Cup and I want to go out on loan. I just don't see that happening.
And he could literally have a double in goals as well. Like he's going to start against Norwich in midweek as well, no doubt.
Well, I'll tell you, he'll be coming out in a rash, won't he? 2 consecutive games. Wow.
Yeah, no, things have gone pretty well for him. Like outside of that, then when you're kind of going through, picking through the wreckage of what was a pretty mental 120 minutes of football, Mark. Was it a situation where Liverpool would be counting their blessings, or is it a situation where the Van Dijk offside call was such a grey one that you're thinking they deserve to win this anyway?
Well, I mean, Tottenham will be complaining. Tottenham, what am I on about? Chelsea will be complaining about the things that went against them in the game. I think Liverpool were quite open actually defensively, which is most unusual for them. But it's a cup final. All you can do is win it. And does it really matter if you win it on penalties? No, absolutely, totally doesn't. But I just love the game. I mean, any one of those 2 teams could have won it quite easily, and the other one couldn't have complained because there's just lots and lots of chances. And by the way, they were really outstanding chances. They weren't half chances, most of them. So I think all you can do in the final is win. And I think as a manager, you don't worry about the performance. It's just all about the winning, and then you move on, obviously.
Was there much talk around Wembley about the Abramovich statement and the nonsensical, I'm not really the owner anymore, I'm handing it over to my charitable trust who will maybe run this for me until I can just come back and take it over again?
Nah, a little bit, but I think when you talk about it and you realise why he's talking and what he's talking about, and then you realise what's happening in the Ukraine, it's like, really? And it was just a nothing statement anyway. So it'll be really interesting to see what goes on at that football club. I know the guy, Bruce Buck. I've been in his company a few times. He's a really nice fella, very, very intelligent. And I would have thought if he's allowed, along with the lady whose name I always forget at Chelsea, that he'll be able to sort it all out. But the Abramovich thing was just a nothing. It was like, really, is that it? So I think it showed him up for what he is, I'm afraid. And the fact that, in his statement, he didn't mention anything about, Putin or what the Russians are doing or anything like that. That tells us everything we need to know. Do
you think football will get stronger with dealing with this? We've seen other sports have been quite strong, and we've seen proper sanctions. Like, is there a possibility that he sells Chelsea or is forced to sell Chelsea?
Yeah, I think football will get stronger. I mean, it's like, it's just absolutely crazy when you think about it, and you turn the news on and stuff and see what's happening, and then it goes to the sport, and you kind of go, wow, yeah, well, sport, we all love it, and then, but really, should we be loving it at the moment because of what's happening? So it's one of those things. But I do think, and I think generally, a lot of nations now are coming out and saying, want nothing to do with Russia, don't want to ever play them, all those kind of things and stuff like that. So that's a good thing. But if you think about it, it's unbelievable, isn't it? What's happening out there? Yeah,
it really is, and it's kind of terrifying in many respects as well.
It's like what you're actually watching history as it's being made. But the problem is, as you're watching it, people are dying, and kids and everything, and you just think, what the hell? I thought, have we not all gone? What everyone went through, I think, in this country, certainly in the Second World War, and they must think, what on earth is this? In the current climate that we're in, and what we have nowadays, it's just bonkers.
Yeah, the Russian people obviously went through the same in the Second World War, and so there's definitely institutional memory in that race of like how bad this could be and how bad it might get. So against that backdrop, we're all watching the football and trying to get distracted by it, and I guess it's going to become more important to be distracted, but also I can't shake the feeling of being a little bit guilty sitting on the couch watching football and enjoying it while at the same time all this is going on.
All of us. I mean, obviously yesterday I'm at the game, and I was like doing some work in one of the hospitality areas and all that, and you wouldn't have known anything about what was happening in the Ukraine in and around the game yesterday. And of course, these people that we were with had paid fortunes to go and watch the game and have a couple of beers and sit in comfort, relative comfort, all those kind of things. And it was just like, at the time everybody forgets what was happening in the Ukraine, and obviously with Russia, etc. And they all had a good day. But I'm sure, I mean, my drive home was about 4 hours, and I was talking to my lad about it and everything, and we were saying it, how bonkers it was, and I said to him he was obviously sat away from me in the middle of the Liverpool lot, and I said, I know the answer to this probably. Was anyone ever talking about, the Ukraine? He went, no, Dad, nothing. So it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be more of a topic as the sanctions begin to kick and as footballers continue to talk about it as well. So they definitely have a role to play in this. Let's talk about some of the actual football on the field then. What's going on with Manchester City? Is it anything other than a couple of hard games? And are we to read anything into the fact that they're not swatting everybody aside the way they were a couple of weeks ago?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Tottenham have always, in the last few seasons, I think Tottenham have done really well against Manchester City, haven't they? They were a bit naive that day, I thought. City, which unusual for them. Obviously, the weekend against Everton, I mean, they got away with one, but good luck to them. I mean that decision about it wasn't handball is just staggering when you consider that somebody is sat in London watching all the different angles of the picture of the handball and decided, no, get on with it. There's nothing wrong with it. And you think, oh my goodness. And that was probably the worst ever decision VAR have made. I can't think of a worse one. But City were pushing and eventually have got the goal, haven't they? Look, they're an outstanding side. I don't see them having a blip, but it just shows you what pressure can do. And, as we've said all along this season, and when Liverpool have been chasing them, it's far easier to chase. And to be chased is much more difficult, especially in sport, most definitely, because there is that little sense of looking over your shoulder. And then if one or two of the players are thinking, oh, well, they're going to catch us, we're going to have a wobble and all those kind of things. And I think they're probably playing a little bit like that. And probably the performance at Everton was that, I think, thinking, well, if we lose here today, look where Liverpool will be and all those kind of things. And but they got through it, which is a sign of an outstanding team. And Everton actually played really, really well. I thought they were very, very competitive and had their own chances. But City won, which is for them is massive.
When you talk about that pressure there, Mark, how's that manifesting itself in these Manchester City performances?
Well, I just think because they've been cruising generally throughout the course of the season, they've been cruising because they've been brilliant. And, I don't use that word lightly. They have been brilliant, and the performances and, no number 9 and all those kind of things, etc., all the chances they've made, all the goals that they've scored, all those kind of things. But, they're obviously human, and I think you get one or two people in the team, and generally he doesn't make too many changes, not from his best team anyway, Guardiola, but sometimes, occasionally, one or two things, the pressure gets to them, which is daft when you consider that they're expected to win every game and win it like 3 or 4-0. But all of a sudden, this kind of on the horizon, this team appears, and it appears with the fact that, Liverpool are going so well, scoring so many goals. They've got everybody fit, no long-term injuries. He's basically got 2 players for every position now, Klopp as well. And one or two of the City lads are thinking, well, they might catch us. And once you start to think that way, and you can't be bloody minded enough about it, I think cracks start to appear, and it becomes different. But I would still back Tottenham. I would still back Man City to win the league.
It's interesting just in terms of how that actually changes Manchester City though, over the next little while, because if we read into Saturday a little bit too much or look into that in isolation, it does seem that maybe Manchester City struggles to create the volume of chances that we're used to seeing from Manchester City. No, I'm not sure if that's down to Everton and a really good setup from them.
I think that's down to Everton.
Right.
That was down to Everton at the weekend, definitely.
Okay, fair enough.
They still had 8 shots on target. It's and on a normal day you'd think they'd probably have scored more. Are Everton showing any signs of life under Lampard?
Yeah. I thought Saturday's performance was really good. I mean, no Calvert-Lewin as well. So I just think what it showed is this fight there, which is a big thing, because if you're down the bottom of the league, if you look at your players and you're thinking one or two don't quite fancy it here, it's it's muck and nettles in many respects. No, I think the crowd were great. The crowd have been good with Frank Lampard. I think they realised that, give him a chance. You've had obviously all sorts of different managers, all sorts of different changes at the football club, and which have been absolutely mad, and the money that they spent, etc., etc. But I think they'll be okay, to be honest with you. The spirit they've got looks like they've got a really good spirit, which is at the bottom of the league. That's like the very least you should have.
Leeds have sacked Bielsa. Was it inevitable after the run of results, or should they have stuck it and let him see if he could rescue it?
Do you know what? I think obviously they sacked him because of the results, but also I think because he can't change. He's actually, in the last number of games, he's actually, for somebody, the way he's had the team playing, etc. I mean, last year they were outstanding, and the performances and the improvement of the players in the team was outstanding. He's become a bit of a dinosaur. And look, if you can't defend, especially in the Premier League, you're going to struggle. And it's not, can't defend. It's just a number of goals, and also the way the goals have come in, and a lot of them have been team goals from the opposition, playing from the back, playing through them, and everything. And the team has scored excellent goals, but also very, very simple goals against Leeds. And yes, they're missing players. Yeah, of course they miss Phillips, of course they miss Bamford, but Plan A didn't work, but he's reverted to Plan A, hasn't he? That's basically what he's done. He just doesn't seem to be able to change it. Instead of going, right, we're gonna play a different way, still with energy, but probably with more defensive organisation, and with an eye at thinking, right, let's be a bit more defensive. But he just didn't do it. And I think that's been his downfall, to be honest with you.
At the same time, how many of those outfield players, with the exception of Rafinha, do you think would get picked up by Premier League teams in the summer if they get relegated?
Yeah, so you're not saying Phillips and Bamford?
Sorry, yes, the fit players, yeah. If we're kind of looking at the players he's had to work with this season, for the majority of this season.
There wouldn't be many, but I don't take Ayling, the right back. I mean, I think he's a really good player and can play centre back as well, but he's not had a good season. And the goalkeepers look what he is, which is a young goalkeeper making mistakes. And I know Cooper's not been playing, and generally looking at Cooper, you think, well, he's half a yard too slow, but he can defend. And if he circled the troops around him, he's a heady kick it centre back. But there would not be many, but they shouldn't be where they are, quite honestly. And I just do think it's just like he's not been working on them in the midweek or before the games, or as in making it difficult for teams to play against them, because they are just as open as a barn door, to be honest with you. You saw Tottenham's goals at the week, and saw Liverpool's goals in midweek. And that became a bit embarrassing, in all honesty, for Leeds.
Yeah, Villa were doing the same thing against them, and if they hadn't conceded two bad goals against them, it would have been 6 defeats in a row, and look, it did. Yeah. It became inevitable in the end. The relegation battle is going to be interesting. They're getting sucked back into it. Everton are right there, Brentford are right there, Newcastle are starting to show a bit of form, Burnley are showing a bit of form. It's about as much as we could have hoped for, really, at that end of the table too. So yeah, plenty to get stuck into.
It's going to be good, isn't it? I mean, it's not for them, but it's like a mini league down at the bottom. But I mean, you've got to credit Newcastle, because they've done excellent, and the players that he's bought so far who are playing regularly, obviously, have got a bit of hunger for the battle, and they understand what's happening. And of course they're getting good money and well paid. Well, good luck to them, because they're performing, and the run's very, very good indeed, isn't it? The transformation of Linton and people like that is just like, wow. But I mean, Norwich are going to go. I think Watford ultimately will go. And as to the other one, I mean, Brentford is sinking like a stone, but I think Ericsson will definitely make a difference. to them. I think Leeds will be okay, and Everton will be okay. And I don't, Burnley obviously have just started to turn the corner, but I'm still not sure about Burnley staying up this year. I think this might be the year that they fall into that trap.
All right, Mark, we leave it there for now. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Thank you.
It's Mark Lawrenson giving us some thoughts on a big win for Liverpool in the cup final. Big day for Queevy and Kelleher. Big day for Cork all round.
It's it is a bit of a fairy tale story, isn't it? We're not just looking at this through green tinted glasses, calling it that.
No,
I think there would have been a general appreciation for this regardless.
The subkeeper scores the winning penalty, and does he out psych the king of the psych outs? Like, did you see the look that Van Dijk made a point of looking at Kepa afterwards?
Yeah,
he was. I can't say the word, but with his eyes.
Yeah.
And with a bit of his mouth. They didn't like what Kepa was doing.
No, Liverpool also knew that there was a big advantage to going first, and they were like, we're going to rub this in at every available opportunity. And if the tables were turned a little bit and Kepa had banged in a penalty and Queevy and Kelleher all of a sudden had a penalty to take to save Liverpool as opposed to win the thing for them, it might have been a higher pressure scenario, but they knew that they were in the ascendancy once they got the first penalty, and they took huge advantage of it. It just could not have worked out any better, and it's remarkable that a goalkeeper is going to be remembered for a cup final for doing anything but what goalkeepers used to do, which was save shots.
There was a lot of goals scored. They were just all offside, or were they? OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, but your best face forward with their new and improved razors.